The key thing, I think, is that I 100% support the president's decision. This had nothing to do with heading off a Russian investigation. Senators Warner, Feinstein, Franken, Congressman Schiff, Speier, Himes, they have nothing, Alex, nothing. They're holding it in their hands. They got nothing. It's bogus, and they're about to be humiliated if they continue down this path.
Wednesday, May 10th, 2017. I'm Alex Jones, your host. Thank you so much for joining us. Well, President Trump, 45, told Comey, the incredibly political, globalist operative that had been protecting the Clintons for many years, he told him, "You're fired." And there went Comey. And now the Democrats are acting like it is the end of the world. They're saying it's Nixonian. We've got to impeach President Trump. And they're the ones just 3 months ago calling for him to be fired. Look at some of these headlines from DrudgeReport.com. Rand Paul says, "Good riddance." Durbin calls it a grave constitutional issue. McCain, more shoes to drop. Some Dems want emergency hearings. Chaos, turmoil, agents crying. What a load of bull. Most of the agents, it's been confirmed, absolutely could not stand Comey. All the big scandals. Well, the media and Congress is saying, basically, and the White House is saying it was that he didn't know the chain of command and did whatever he wanted to. And now they're saying Comey sought more money for Russian probe days before he was fired, officials say. Washington Post. Well, Trump was tweeting last week. Why aren't you looking at the uranium deals and Hillary and the Podestas? Why aren't you looking at her meeting secretly with Putin? Why aren't you involved with her in communist China or the OPM hack? Why is it all General Flynn went and got paid to go on RT television, and he had gigs with the Germans and the British and the Turks and everybody else, when he was in a private citizen. That's the big bottom of the rabbit hole here. So joining us from the airport, flying to New York to be on the Today Show tomorrow, in 2 days, his big Netflix show, Get Me Roger Stone, that yours truly is also in, is set to premiere. It's got amazing ratings from the critics that have already seen it. So I look forward to seeing that, obviously. Netflix, Get Me Roger Stone, the notorious GOP operative, plays both narrator and villain. So, Get Me Roger Stone, that is coming up in T-minus 48 hours on Netflix. But going to Roger Stone, who's got a Fox News crew and a bunch of other crews following him around at the airport, giving us the first exclusive today on exactly what is breaking down and happening with Comey. Roger, let's go over from your sources.
Well, some interesting contretemps today, Alex. Politico published a story which claimed that I had persuaded the president to fire James Comey. CNN picked that story up from Politico. I am not the source of that story, nor have I claimed anything of the kind, because as I have said on this show many times, no one talks Donald Trump into anything. He's not some mannequin that you hand talking points to. And I have always declined to discuss the content or frequency of my conversations with the president.
Sure, I know, but you have, I mean, when we talked about this for over an hour last night, I get where you can go or you can't. The point is I have my sources. I called you. I checked out what they told me. You said that was pretty much dead on, but you didn't want to get into any conversations you've had. But it is in the newspapers today that you are the source of the person that finally got the president to drop the hammer last week. Now, obviously, you're not taking credit for that. He is his own person. But I guess you can't speak to those reports?
Well, I'm not specifically, I'm not the source of those reports, nor did I confirm them. But, Alex, I have spoken about this. I have talked about it. I've been calling for Mr. Comey's firing now for months. And beyond that, the idea that I somehow persuaded the president is just not true. Now, as you know, any advice you do give the president, you're best to keep to yourself. The president has to have an expectation of confidentiality. So the president tweeted fake news. Roger Stone did not talk me into firing Comey. Well, that's true. I did not. And I never said I did, nor did I ever claim
That's right. It's the media just going with this.
Yeah, CNN picked it up from Politico. I didn't confirm it for Politico. I didn't confirm it for CNN. I'm not going to talk about any conversation I may or may not have had with the president. That's always been my policy, even here at InfoWars.
Certainly. Now,
but that said, the president's made a bold and I think the correct decision. Comey had no interest in the mega crimes by the Clintons. The Clinton Foundation is not a charity. It's a slush fund for grifters. And as we both know, it was the vehicle for the facilitation of multi-million-dollar bribes on matters not just uranium, but across the board. Yet Mr. Comey seemed to have no interest in those crimes, wasting his time investigating the non-existent Russian collusion. Again, there is no evidence whatsoever that would hold up in a court of law of any collusion between the Russian and officials in the Trump campaign. It's a canard. It's
sure, and Senator Paul has come out. Senator Paul has seen the intelligence. He's come out and said that's the case as well. They admit there's nothing there. But from my sources and what I was told, and then I called you last night, and you said, well, you've talked to some of your sources, and that seemed to be right on target. It was that Comey was violating the chain of command, was seen as reckless, weird, constantly changing positions, and that he was just seen as overall kind of soft, and that's why the Attorney General recommended he be removed.
My sources said the exact same thing that your sources said. That's 100% accurate. He seemed to be empire building. He didn't seem to be responsive to either the Congress or the executive branch. He seemed to believe he was a power unto himself with his own agenda. Only days ago saying, well, you're stuck with me for 6 years. Well, not so fast. And
by the way, you notice that he said he thought it was a joke when he first heard the news yesterday, totally disconnected from reality.
The key thing, I think, is that I 100% support the president's decision. This had nothing to do with heading off a Russian investigation. Senators Warner, Feinstein, Franken, Congressman Schiff, Speier, Himes, they have nothing, Alex, nothing. They're holding it in their hands. They got nothing. It's bogus, and they're about to be humiliated if they continue down this path. The idea that this is like Richard Nixon and the Saturday Night Massacre is false for several reasons. First of all, Watergate had been in full bore for 18 months. Archibald Cox was specifically investigating Richard Nixon himself when Nixon fired Cox, making him a cocksacker. In any event, this situation is not analogous. There is no allegation that the president himself was involved in any Russian collusion. There's no evidence to that effect.
Sure, doesn't it take the wind out of their sails, Roger, that the Democrats just 3 months ago were calling for his sacking?
Yeah, well, 3 months ago. How about a day ago? Hillary Clinton was whining about this 2 days ago. She came out, as you saw, saying that Comey had cost her the election.
It was his fault and misogyny. Now she's saying it's horrible that he was fired.
Well, first of all, she's right about the misogyny issue. Her husband's misogyny was definitely a major factor in her defeat.
And let's give some credit. You helped engineer a lot of that.
Well, I think a lot of Americans were unaware of the record because back in the 80s, when Infowars.com did not exist, no Breitbart, no Daily Caller, no alternative media, the three major networks conspired to cover up the rape of Juanita Broaddrick. The three major networks conspired to cover up multiple sexual assaults by Bill, but more importantly, they covered up Hillary's actions to bully and intimidate and threaten Bill's victims.
Hillary is so entitled.
You cannot be an advocate for women when you are, terrorizing women.
Now, let's get into the meat and potatoes. This is only happening at the bottom of the hour. You got to do a Fox interview right now. Where is all this going? Because they're saying it's a constitutional crisis. They're saying they want to have all these hearings like he's covering something up. Comey is running around doing whatever he wants to, and anybody that really actually studies it knows that. And we know, though, he wanted to expand the fake Russian investigation when we've all been saying lock Hillary up for her Russian connections, the uranium deals, the Chinese connections. I mean, it's so crazy that the Podestas, as you reported over a year ago, they knew that they were in deep with Russia, so they turned the whole narrative around, and then still we're letting the tail wag the dog here, Roger.
Classic disinformation. I must admit, a brilliant strategy by Podesta. Blame Donald Trump for for doing exactly what he himself and the Clintons are doing, enriching themselves due to their ties with the oligarchs around Vladimir Putin. I'll tell you what really needs to happen now, and that is the majority, the Republican majority on the House and Senate Intelligence Committee need to grow a pair. Yes, we do need to investigate Susan Rice's misuse of surveillance material in violation of the law.
I was about to say, now we know Obama,
and when she knew it.
Obama ordered thousands of Americans in the election spied on for political control. That's all admitted now.
Well, and in the hearing 2 days ago, we had James Clapper testifying. Mr. Clapper lied to the Congress about metadata. He should have been fired then, and he should be a pariah today. Why would we believe anything he said after he got caught red-handed? Which, by the way, would not have happened if Edward Snowden had not stepped forward and exposed him.
I want to look at...
The Republicans really on these two committees need to stop kowtowing to punks like Adam Schiff. And, you know, I saw one story on Susan Rice's refusal to testify. If Paul Manafort or Roger Stone or General Flynn refused to testify, well, you know, all hell would break loose. It would be a constitutional crisis. It would shake the republic to its foundation. This is nonsense. It's time to find out what Susan Rice did. It's time to find out what Obama knew and when he knew it.
Now, Roger, in the 10 minutes we have left, let me walk through the waterfront here with you. Kissinger at the White House today. Obviously, he's a top advisor to Vladimir Putin, but that's okay because, you know, he's establishment. Of course, Russia and the United States are talking, so that's happening right now, right as Lavrov arrives and slaps down Andrea Mitchell yet again. And so there's a lot of power playing going on in D.C. Right now. I've got some calls into my sources on that. But what's your intel on the major tectonic movements we see going on in D.C. geopolitically today?
Well, Alex, I've known Henry Kissinger since 1969. He started out as a disciple to Fritz Kramer and the hardliners, and he ended up being an advocate for détente with both the Russians and the Chinese. He's a skilled diplomat, and Donald Trump has decided to use Clinton to his advantage. Sure, you want somebody who knows Putin. What better way to have a back-channel dialogue? Originally, the Democrats were criticizing Tillerson because he knows Putin. The president himself told me having somebody who knows Putin is a plus, not a minus.
Yeah, that's what the executive branch is supposed to talk to the other leaders. How Congress is trying, the liberals are trying to paralyze the president where he can't act as the executive is treason.
Well, I reported right here at InfoWars that Dr. Kissinger carried a private message from the President of the United States to the Chinese that was very well received. This was after the Chinese premier visited Mar-a-Lago. This is high-level diplomacy. This is what the president is supposed to be doing. But the idea that Henry Kissinger is bending Trump to his will is exactly backward. Donald Trump is using Kissinger's skills as a diplomat. I see no evidence that Kissinger is changing the president's mind on, say, interventionism. In fact, my sources tell me Kissinger was opposed to the recommendation of putting 150,000 troops into Syria. The other thing I can tell you, Alex, as reported here on InfoWars by Mike Cernovich, but which I can now confirm, General McMaster is clearly on the skids. He is on his way out. He has not meshed with the president in terms of operating style, and I do not think he has the president's confidence in this role. I think he will be appointed to a position for which he is better suited.
You know, the word is just shuffled off. Give it another star. This is on drudgereport.com. It's also on Infowars.com. Obama uses a private jet 14-car convoy to get to climate speech. I'll talk about that later. But White House leakers having new target, H.R. McMaster. And that's exactly what I was getting told by my sources and Cernovich's sources, is that that now Trump is going into the mode of leaking basically himself, which he's allowed to do, or some of his adjuncts, to go ahead and start undermining McMaster, because McMaster, again, another guy that thought that he was in charge of everything, just like Comey.
Yeah, all all these White House staffers and other presidential appointees who think they can manipulate Donald Trump like a puppet just do not know him and don't understand him. He's his own man. Sometimes he keeps his own counsel. Sometimes you can leave a meeting thinking you've persuaded him of something and then watch while he does the exact opposite of what you've recommended. This is the Trump that people elected. When I read on page 1 of the New York Times that Ivanka Trump wants to be a moderating influence on her father, I don't want a moderated Donald Trump.
Yeah, we didn't elect her.
I voted for. I want the real Donald Trump.
Yeah, we didn't elect a younger, better-looking Hillary Clinton.
Look, I love Trump just the way he is. I don't want a different Trump. I want Trump the outsider. I want Trump the bombastic, tough, a shrewd, a businessman, a guy who understands how to make things happen, not just sit around and talk about them.
All right, Roger, in the 5 minutes we've got left here, I want to look at the big picture. I mean, clearly the Russia thing is completely made up. The Democrats and a lot of the other Republican establishment have been deeply involved with lots of multinational companies and foreign governments. With Trump, it's surprising how little Russian connections there are, knowing he's an international business magnate and real estate mogul. That said, the Democrats are never going to get off the offense. They're the ones through their surrogates saying, kill the president, kill us, overthrow everyone. They're at war with us. They're funding the cop-killing groups. They're funding all the social distortion garbage. They're a clear and present danger running around inside our country. And so I'm not calling for authoritarianism. They're an authoritarian threat. And so we need the Attorney General to go after the Clintons, to go after Obama, to go after them all. They want a war. They need to get one. I know in my gut, but also historically. If he doesn't go all out constitutionally with the right thing to do and get really aggressive politically and really start getting them back on their heels, they're not going to stop. They're going to make stuff up. They're going to dig stuff up. They're going to twist it, and they're going to try to remove the president. Now, am I wrong? Can he just let them sit there and do this forever? Or should he?
Alex, I think you're absolutely right. I think you're 100% right. Look, we saw how the Democrats politicized Watergate, and they used it to undo one of the greatest political landslides in American history. They couldn't win at the ballot box, so they removed Nixon through this extrajudicial process. It's the same thing here, which is why I say, again, the majority on the Senate Intelligence Committee need to vote to subpoena Mr. Podesta, his brother, Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, Chelsea Clinton. They should be compelled to testify about their gas deal, their banking deal, their uranium deal. They're the people who have been in bed with Putin. It is not conjecture. It's not a conspiracy theory. These are cold, hard facts.
Cut and dry.
And it's time for the Senate and House Republicans to show a little backbone.
Well, exactly. They're the ones that have done all the stuff selling us out to globalism. We get a real president trying to revert power back to the country. Doesn't mean you agree with every policy, but he really is being the president right now. All these special interests are pissed. They've involved themselves in corporate international espionage, transferring power to this crony capitalist offshore combine, and they want to go on the offense and call for our deaths and all this other crap. It's time to go on the offense against these people.
Well, and you put your finger on it. It's time for Attorney General Sessions to convene a grand jury and send for Hillary. I'm sure he has many, many, many questions for her.
That's right, because they're not stopping. They're
email.
I'm sorry, go ahead. They're coming after America with everything they've got, trying to destroy us, and they're the criminals. Then let's let them have it. Sorry, go ahead. We have nothing to lose but running over these people.
I could not agree more. It's time for the Republican Party, particularly the established Republican Party, to show some backbone. We have to fight the way the Democrats are. They are trying to undo the election. That is their goal. They're unhappy with what the people decided, and now they would like to remove Trump, discredit him, destabilize him, and as the New Yorker proved, I guess it was New York, no, the New Yorker proved, there's an active cabal to try to declare him insane and remove him under the 25th Amendment because they don't like his policies. Think about that for a moment. We had a president who was a sexual assaulter of women, but we're claiming that Donald Trump's crazy? Please.
I mean, Bill Clinton's clearly completely insane. So is Hillary. All right, stonecoldtruth.com, big Netflix show coming out in 2 days. I know you're going to be in New York tomorrow doing the rounds. Please come on sometime tomorrow with us on the eve of the TV premiere because this is going to be a real documentary. I really look forward to seeing this with Roger Stone in closing here, Roger, what else do you think the president needs to do?
Well, I think he's, from a political point of view, he is now finally getting to tax reform, and this is an issue that unites all wings of the party and the movement. He's got to get out there and sell his vision for a growing economy and his bona fides as a job creator. We've dallied too long with Obamacare. I'm glad we got it repealed, but at least in the House. But it's now time to move to the core issue that won us the election: the stagnant economy and the fact that Barack Obama has run the country into the ground.
It's the economy, stupid.
I'm glad to see the president listening to people like Larry Kudlow instead of listening to people like his own economic advisor, Gary Cohn, the former chairman of Goldman, liberal Democrat, who I guarantee you voted for Hillary Clinton.
Amazing. I guess Trump thinks he's keeping his enemies closer. I know this. On the jobs, on the stock market, on the sovereignty issue, on killing TPP, he's totally delivered. Cutting the IRS funding, cutting the UN funding by half. He's done a lot of great things. That's why they're so mad at him. But his compromises only make them think he's weak. So I just hope he just continues to steamroller right over the top of him, Roger Stone.
Amen, brother. I'm with you 100%.
All right. Well, I'll call you after the show today once you get to New York, because we always have to talk about some of the other things that are developing. We got 30 seconds left. Any other tidbits I forgot to ask?
You can help the fight for a free press in the First Amendment by going to InfoWarsStore.com and getting your copy of The Making of the President 2016 or any of the great products there. This is crucial if we're going to have a vibrant and robust alternative media.
That's right. Thank you. We're changing the world. That's why we're under attack. And our listeners are the backbone of the restoration of human liberty. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
What the aging process is when the cell replicates, we lose a little bit of our telomeres. Telomeres are the little cups on the